And Jennifer is remote this evening. Are you in the like classroom next door? Or?
Yeah, I'm at home with my dog, so if at any point I'm talking and it cuts out quickly, it's because I muted it because they are offended that somebody was, trying to walk down the street or use their yard.
Yeah.
The
So you
audacity,
might need to turn the volume down on your woofers.
for real.
It was sad. It was sad. It's Wednesday. What can I say? Let's go ahead and get started. It's after 6. This should be a fairly quick class. It's kind of the where we are right now. It is September the 10th. We're going to talk a little bit more tonight about the privacy policy that is due in a couple of weeks. So everybody still has plenty of time to get that done. If you haven't started on it, you should. Next week, so I haven't updated the syllabus. I plan to be here, so it won't be a virtual class only. I have no idea why that was a leftover remnant, I think, from last year, and I just didn't catch it. Um, Jennifer may be here also, but anyway, someone will be present in the classroom. The way the workday classes go, we don't have a lecture. I mean, we'll do a little intro-y kind of stuff and check in with everybody. It's basically a time for you to focus on working on the assignment if you haven't already finished it. Listen to questions that people may have or ask questions. It's really just to make sure that everybody has some dedicated time to work on the assignment. So we won't have any new material to go over until after that. The following week on the 24th, we'll start into the privacy impact assessment and some fun stuff about that. So that is where we are on the syllabus. I can't believe we're already on our 4th class. It's going by very quickly. Let's see. And we'll take a look at this. So September 3rd, you guys turned in the first CPO plan. It was worth 5 points. September 24th, the privacy policy is due. October 15th, privacy impact assessment. Should by this point at least be starting to work on the privacy policy. To be clear, the privacy policy is for Quantum Leap, and the service, Enterprise Web Services, EWS, is their offering. We need a privacy notice for EWS. So we'll be talking a little bit more detail about assignment 2 here in just a bit. I have graded the first 2 weeks of discussions. Generally, everybody's doing fine, and you guys are, some of you are enthusiastically discussing things and responding to other students. We have had a few folks that only submitted a single response and didn't respond to any other students. Remember, in order to get full credit, you must post a response to our prompt, and you must respond to 2 other students substantively. In the first couple, I'm a little lenient on that, but like Jennifer said many times, if you're not really contributing to the discussion, you're not gonna get the points for that. So from this point on, the grading of the discussions will be a little bit more. I mean, now you guys are kind of used to the questions that are going to be asked. You've seen what your fellow students are capable of. Also remember to share whatever resources you use in your discussion or your response. We don't care about the format or anything like that, but if you're using websites or googly things or AI to review or analyze your responses, please share those things. The first assignment, generally everybody did really well, and I'm a little excited to see where you guys are going to take us the rest of the semester. So seeing your 1-year plans, I think everybody did a fantastic job. There were a few situations where folks probably should have provided some citation to resources and didn't. One of the biggest problems we see with assignments, and I don't know how many ways we can say it or how many times we can say it to make sure that everybody understands, but you must tailor the assignment to the factual scenario that was provided. We have mentioned that you should, if you have assumptions, document those assumptions and share them. I probably shouldn't have to say this, but you are not permitted to assume something that is contrary to one of the facts in the scenario. So if the scenario says one thing, you can't make an assumption that's the opposite of that. You must provide the citations to your work, and you must tailor it to the situation. If you submit a response, I mean, we're a couple of weeks from getting privacy policies and privacy notices, and if your response doesn't even mention the name of the company, you're not going to do very well. If you're turning in just very generic work that could apply to practically any situation without taking the time to tailor it, you're not going to do very well. So hopefully most of you guys get it, and from what I saw in the first assignment, you do. And again, I think keep doing what you're doing for the responses for the upcoming assignments, and you'll all do very well. Jennifer, I don't think I have anything else that I need to say at this point. Do you want to hear the screen and do your thing?
Okay, let me pull it up here.
And I'm going to stop my share.
Okay, can you see?
Before we go there, just real quick, are there any questions for those of you in the class or out there remotely before we go on?
I have one, Tim, and this is just like to talk about documenting assumptions.
Yes.
I'm trying to incorporate my assumptions into my writing style versus like setting them aside and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing.
Yes.
Is that acceptable, or would you like a clearer statement like this? I'm working off of X.
Yeah, I incorporating it into the text of your response is yeah, that's fine. That's fine and pretty clear. Again, the biggest concern is when you're either demonstrating that you haven't read or don't understand the factual scenario. That's the problem. But yeah, we do not need a list of assumptions, and they're going to be I think, what's the word, that just natural assumptions based on the text. So,
But I've told people that if you do want to list the assumptions, that is okay as well. Like if you're making some big assumptions,
yeah,
because otherwise we don't know, did you assume something or did you just not forget about it? Some things
yeah,
like if you have something bolded and underlined that looks like a hyperlink, we can assume that that is a hyperlink. But
yeah. If you said in the text that the process for disposing of paper materials in the Human Resources Department is governed by HR policy. If you did that in the narrative, then I'm taking that as you're sharing an assumption.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you make assumptions such as like, just say if you make an assumption that you don't have customers that are impacted by GDPR, you want to tell me that, because if you don't have something listed about GDPR, even a one line, because again, we told you, you do not have to add all that stuff about GDPR in. But if you make that assumption and tell me that, then I know you just didn't forget to address it.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see my presentation?
Yeah, we see the.
Does it move?
No, it's the other view. It's the presenter view, not the.
But I don't have that. I just have share.
Oh, okay. Well, you can like start the presentation and it'll show the slide screen, the slide.
I advanced it. Do you see that one?
No.
Okay. Well, hang on a second.
That's okay.
I'm sharing it, so I don't know what's going on.
Are you sharing a screen or are you sharing an application or?
It says I'm sharing an application.
Yeah, stop doing that and share a screen.
Okay, how was that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, well, I apologize. I'm having to be remote tonight. I just wasn't going to be able to get off work. We're interviewing candidates to backfill my chief privacy officer role, and they've been running late in the afternoon. And I just wasn't going to be able to get home, get the dogs from school, and then get them home and back to class. So thank you for your grace. Okay,
wow,
so
did anybody from class, has anybody from class applied for your job?
No. I know it.
Come on.
Okay, so I know it. So tonight we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive. And for those of y'all who didn't hear earlier, if for some reason I mute myself and my voice goes out all of a sudden, it's because my dogs are offended by somebody trying to use our neighborhood, or things like that. And they are the neighborhood hall monitor. So if they start barking, I'll mute myself real quick. But tonight we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive, and we're going to do something we have not done before. We're going to give you specific examples, because what will happen is there are two different assignments. We talked that last week, a privacy policy is your internal practices. Like, how does your company manage your information? Where the privacy notice is a slightly more generic, it's the who, what, how, why that you give to your customers. And inevitably, someone either only submits one, or the other common pitfall is they submit a privacy notice that's geared towards customers. Then they take the same format and make a notice to employees about, well, here, employees, this is how we use your information. And that is not a privacy policy. You don't have to tell your employees how you're using their HR data or something like that. The policy is an overall scope of how you as a company manage your information. It's going to include like data destruction, lock file cabinets. It may, badge access. It may include user access. Now, keep in mind, we do not expect you to have to like go out and find all these super sophisticated sentences of SOC 2 compliance and this, that, and the other. So don't worry if you do not get it as finessed. We want you to make this your own rather than getting it, chat GPT in it and making it super finesse. So keep that in mind. But here's a reason why the difference and why it matters. There are a lot of regulations that require transparency. Okay, so that's why you have to give these notices, but also how you have your own practices. Your own practices are governed by these as well. Some require very specific terms. Your customers expect the trust, and mixing them creates issues with compliance and reputational risk, especially when there's an issue. As we said last time, you do not want to leave it up to your employees on how they are supposed to behave. Okay. So here it is again. The policy is internal. Notice is external. I'm not going to read that. We've already talked about it. So your content of your privacy policy, it includes things like, again, your data classification, storage, security. How do you manage your vendors, which is a huge thing nowadays, and employee responsibilities. Your notice is just the who, what, how, why. Common mistakes, I think that we've talked about this. A big one is failure to update your notices when your practice change, and they do change. That's why it is important for you to put an effective date on there. But they change as times change. Technology changes. With AI on the rise and being used, it's going to require changes to your privacy practices. So that's why it's important. If you omit anything from the employees, then you're leaving it up to their discretion, and you do not want to leave privacy up to individual discretion. So here is another cheat sheet. Again, keep in mind, we're giving you more than we've given any other class. So this should kind of give you a little bit of clue, but here's the example. So your privacy policy might say all cloud data must be encrypted at rest and in transit. Only authorized staff may access the raw logs. That's a practice of how you as a company manage your data. Now, again, do I expect you to use these exact sentences? I mean, you get the gist of what you can do. That's in your policy. But the notice to your customer says that we collect your data to improve performance. And you can opt out of analytics. That's a who, what, how, why. But the privacy policy about all cloud data is a practice of how your company, in this case, Quantum Leap, protects its data. Another example. Your policy might say marketing teams must configure the analytics to anonymize IP addresses before storing it. Again, I don't expect you to have such a finessed statement, but you could say, you must anonymize all data. But your notice tells the customers, we use cookies and analytics to understand how you use our site. So you're telling your customers you're collecting it and for what purpose, but then you're telling your employees what to do with it once it's collected. Okay, 2 more examples. A customer IP addresses are automatically logged in the system for security monitoring, and logs are retained for 12 months and reviewed monthly by SOC. Okay. Your notice says we collect information about how you use our website, such as your IP address, to keep our services secure. So again, your notice is telling your customers what we are collecting and why. And then you're telling your employees in your policy what to do with the data once it's collected. Okay, the last one. Personally identifiable information collected from user accounts may be analyzed to improve performance in recommended engines. Okay. Your notice to your customer says, we use your account information to personalize your experience and suggest content that may be relevant. So again, you're telling your customers the what and why of what we are collecting in a very plain language statement. And then your policy, if you're telling your employees, much more technical, what we do with it and for what purpose and who can access it and things of that nature once we have collected it. That makes sense. Do we have any other questions? All right, here's some best practices.
Yeah, before you go on, Lester just posted in the chat, privacy policy, third person, present tense versus privacy notice, first person to refer to the business and second person refer to the reader or person being informed. I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's definitely not a requirement.
No.
The way, so what you'll see as you're browsing various commercial websites out there, the tone of the company is going to inform the way that they communicate with their customers. So there are some companies that you might, Starbucks, you might expect them to be a little bit more playful in the way that they communicate to their customers, even in something like a privacy notice. Charles Schwab or Bank of America, on the other hand, would have a much more serious tone. They may use third person for everything. So I think it really, for the privacy notice, it's your job to figure out how Quantum Leap and EWS are going to communicate with customers with respect to the notice, and the appropriate tone you're going to take with the employees and their privacy policy.
And to add to that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just asking if you concurred, Jennifer.
Yes. And so back up here under the common mistakes, one is basically treating a notice like a policy, and it's not. And that is by, you want to make your notices, the reason why they're written so simple, like we use cookies to understand how our visitors use our site. We use your account information. It is supposed to be written in plain language, the privacy notice. We collect information about how you use our website. It is a very plain language, much more simple, non-legalese, not very technical. Whereas your policy, because it is directing your own staff, Quantum Leap staff, whether it's HR, security, data, developers, finance, whomever, it is going to be slightly more technical because you're directing them what to do. So if you have to have SOC 2 compliance or, data has to be classified in a certain way, they're going to understand that because they're the ones who work in that environment. So in addition, like I say, Tim said, you have to determine, it doesn't matter first person, second, that kind of stuff, but the notice needs to be written in plain language. Okay. Some best practices. You want to have your detailed internal privacy policy for staff and the compliance teams. Because if they don't have details on what they are supposed to do when all this data is collected, or how to protect the data, whether it's on paper, whether it's electronic, then either they're not going to protect it, they're going to protect it badly, they're not going to know to lock the door, or they're not going to think maybe we need to, change the passwords on our server quarterly or once a year or whatever the case is. Things of that nature. You're going to leave it up to them, and you do not want to leave it up to employees. You want to publish a concise, plain language privacy note for your users. Think of, somebody who's not technical. Can your mom or dad or your grandma go out there and read it and understand what data is being collected? You want those documents to align. While it's not always a one-to-one, just say for this one, you don't, for this one, you would not want your notice to say we do not collect cookies or do analytics. But then in your policy, talk about collecting IP addresses, because those are going to be inconsistent. So while it doesn't always have to be one for one, your privacy policy is theoretically going to have more meat to it. You don't want them to be inconsistent. So whatever you're doing in your privacy notice should somewhat be reflected in your policy of what you want your employees to do with it. That make sense? Okay, you want to update regularly, which for you guys is maybe not necessarily going to be an issue because y'all are drafting from scratch right now. But in practice, you do want to update regularly after any product changes, regulatory changes, just a general refresh. So that is why it's important to have both of them dated. You can also use layered notices, which are short versus detailed ones for like apps and platforms. That is not necessarily going to be, you don't necessarily have to do that for this, but keep in mind if you are out there in the real world, on your phone, if you have a whole very long privacy notice that's going to scroll multiple pages on your iPhone, would that be better developed where it's all rolled up to like 4 or 5 bullet points and a user could click on one and then it's expanded? So just think in mind about how the data gets presented. Again, not necessarily as important for this because we're not asking you to develop, apps, but it's something to consider. Oh, okay. This is slide number 10. So just remember, your privacy policy is the internal playbook by which your company operates. The notice is what you're telling your customers and promising them that you're going to do. We're going to protect your data. This is what we collect. This is the purpose we collected. And this is what we're going to do to protect it for you. It's what you're promising your customers. You have to have both of them for multiple reasons, but for trust, effective governance, and compliance with regulatory law. Okay, see, I told you, Tim, I only had 10 slides.
Those were 10 awesome slides. Hopefully everybody memorized those.
I'm going to stop sharing.
And I think I'm gonna go back to the assignment and open up the scenario again. And share my screen again. So another thing. So part of what we're trying to do is every year we've made adjustments to the class to try to improve the experience, to try to deal with the common mistakes that we keep seeing. So it's like we see people doing these things, and then we try to find a way to help correct it. So every year we've tried something a little bit new to try to improve the experience. I think there aren't a whole lot of folks in the class right now. Maybe at this point, so you guys have completed the first assignment. Are there any questions about the project scenario that you would like to ask? And also, at the time that I wrote this, I had zero information that Google was planning to build a giant data center in West Memphis. Have you guys heard about that?
You sure you didn't know that?
I did not know. I did not know.
I'm calling you for stuff from now on.
I don't know. And I wonder if theirs is going to be earthquake proof, Jennifer. Do they even know about the New Madrid fault up there?
If they're smart, they would.
Well, we'll see. So first of all, are there any questions about the scenario? Usually some of you guys are you'll pick it to death in a good way and point out things that I missed, or whether it's a contradiction or something like that. And I always love it when people do that. It's like, oh, this is what I really meant. So there have been, in just about every year, we have to do some adjustments to the scenario, because you guys are, I mean, those are the folks that do really well. They're picking it apart and seeing obvious flaws in the scenario or the logic, or trying to make sense of something. So you're, maybe you're trying to build your incident response plan, and they're two conflicting things, and it's like, what, I need clarity on this. So it's not uncommon for folks to ask, what did you really mean when you wrote this? So I'm happy to deal with that. I have no concerns, no ego around this. I just had fun writing the stuff. And the first assignments, many of you, it looks like you're starting to take it and run with it. So I look forward to seeing where it goes. Lester has no questions. Scenario is clear. There should be, I mean, the intent is that there's enough information in the scenario for you to start thinking. So I didn't build an EWS.com website. So you're having to imagine what that interaction looks like as the CPO. So that's part of your creative challenge. How do I interact with this thing? So how should I share a notice about the privacy information? There's not a whole lot of information that we've provided about the stuff that we're collecting. So again, in your responses, you may have to document either narratively, or explicitly that I'm assuming that we're going to maintain PCI compliance because we're getting credit card data. And so those things are up to you to figure out what are those privacy implications based on the data that we're probably going to collect and store. I think the other thing, it's totally not cheating. If you go down to the end and look at the data breach scenarios, if I were you, I would totally be absorbing that information too, because that's where we're going to end up at the end of the class. So there's some probably useful hints in there that may help you think about what do I need to include in my privacy notice, my privacy policy, my incident response plan. So please, please, please read the whole thing and feel free to use those. It's like you have premonition, so you know it's coming. So you can use that foresight as you're working on the assignments. And also, I will notice that at least one of you in your 1-year plan included post-quantum cyber resiliency in your plan, and that was fun to see.
That's one of the areas I'm having a lot of fun is exploring some of that. It's just so on the edge.
It is.
You don't know,
It is.
but the implications for encryption are huge.
It is. It's huge. It's huge. CISA has started publishing some post-quantum cyber resiliency algorithms for testing. So they're already trying to anticipate how are we going to protect our data in a post-quantum world. So it's fun. It really gets the nerdy side of me going. What about you, Jennifer?
Probably not quite as nerdy, but yes.
I again in both our roles, both your new role and former role, one of the challenges that we face as leaders of our organizations is to look ahead, to try to anticipate things and be prepared, and help to prepare the organization. In 2020, in March 2020, pretty much everything started shutting down. In the Justice Building, we closed our laptops and went home and continued with our Teams meetings and other stuff. For probably well over a decade, I had been very intentional in taking our organization to a point where we were no longer tethered to the Justice Building. So it had the pandemic occurred 10 years before, the appellate courts would have shut down. We would have had to stop operating. I stopped buying desktops years and years and years and years ago. So everybody had laptops. We had VPN licenses. We had the network infrastructure. We had multiple ingress and egress to the building if something happened with another agency. Electronic filing, cloud-based information systems. Everyone in the building was accustomed to already working remotely. So it really was as simple as shutting down, going home, and starting up again. So what I was seeing all over the country among my peers is, where can I get some webcams? We don't have enough VPN licenses. We don't have the network infrastructure to manage 200 or 500 people connecting on VPN. We don't have laptops. All we have are desktops.
Right.
So while
There were
all over the country, the justice came to a screaming halt in Arkansas, we just kept going.
There were
and that's
there
our
were
job.
many
That's our job.
there were many people in my department that when COVID happened that had came over. That was right about right after transformation, and they joined us all and broke us up. There was like multiple divisions in my department that only had desktops. So we had to scramble to get them all laptops, get VPN and all of that. In 2020.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, all of that was just to say this is a fun time, I think, and a fun opportunity for you guys to step out of whatever role you're going to be playing in real life, and become a CPO, and use your imaginations on these problems that we're going to be throwing at you. It's I will say that each year it seems like it's becoming a little bit harder, um, because it's like truth is becoming stranger than fiction now. So um, I don't know what next year's going to be like.
It's a crazy world we live in. Crazy world.
It is. What other questions might you guys have? I think there's no discussion tonight, so you don't have to worry about that. So really the focus of the next 2 weeks is getting the policy and the notice ready.
You say no discussion for this week?
There's no discussion, no.
Now come next week with any questions you may have.
Yep. And we'll, so next week, we'll be here in the classroom. We'll hang out pretty much here and online until folks have no questions. I mean, we're not going to sit here for the whole 3 hours silently. But as long as folks are in the classroom and have stuff that they need us for, or online, we will stay as long as we're needed.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that we didn't have more to discuss, but I did give you more than we've ever given any other class. We gave specific examples. So I expect everybody to do good work.
I think the other difference too this year, we have significantly fewer students this time around.
That's true. About half.
Yeah, so I think the interaction is going to be a little bit different with y'all. But we're happy to engage. The other thing, remember, we are happy to look at your submission before you submit it. So if you want any feedback or advice, get those to us between now. As we get closer to the due date, the likelihood of us having time to provide any substantive feedback is going to be much less. But now is a good time. And my work schedule is fairly light the next couple weeks too. So I'm not overwhelmed at the moment. Is this privacy stuff much of watched by regulatory agencies? California has a dedicated agency. Other states rely on the DA, while Europe has one dedicated agency. This is one of those philosophical questions that we sort of ask the class. Are we at a point where we should have some sort of national privacy policy? Put yourself in the position of somebody trying to do business, and it's like all business is global now. It's hard to segregate your customers based on a physical location. It doesn't matter anymore. So now, in order to meet the regulatory requirements, depending on the data domain that you're working in, you have to be familiar with the regulatory framework of potentially hundreds of different jurisdictions. We're lucky. Jennifer and I work for state government, so we don't have the FCC or the FCC breathing down our necks. In some states, in my role, the FBI has taken a position that criminal justice information that is filed in a court case retains its status as criminal justice information. And with that, there are regulatory requirements. For most of us in the courts, our position is that we are an equal and separate branch of government. We are a sovereign state. And when criminal justice information is properly filed in a criminal case, it is court information. And the regulatory framework for court information governs its use and dissemination. Did anybody make any sense to that?
Yeah. And I will just add, I will add that California probably has a dedicated agency because they also have a statewide privacy law. Same reason why Europe has them, because it has GDPR. Many states do not have one. There is not a nationwide one in the US. And so that may be why there's no technically dedicated agency. And do people come in here and necessarily look at your privacy practices? They might when it's doing an audit, like our department houses the data for state tax returns. And so the IRS does an audit of both our privacy and security practices.
Yep.
There are things of that nature that, the bank department is, regulated by the, FDIC and the Federal Reserve, and they do look at their privacy practices. Oftentimes your privacy practices, if they're not looked at by a regulatory agency, in the event of a breach, they do get questioned. So yes, they do look into them, even if there's not a dedicated agency that handles them, because like the bank department, they have regular audits by the Federal Reserve and the FDIC and the U.S. Treasury. So it's not a dedicated privacy agency, but they do come in and govern and audit their privacy practices.
Right.
Seems to me if we could get our act together a little bit, though, we could streamline some of this. It's the way it is right now. I mean, just as somebody that's just starting to look at this stuff, what kind of web have we woven? I mean, it's a mess, and I just don't see how you extract yourself.
Right, and it dramatically increases the cost of doing business.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It seems incredibly expensive from a regulatory standpoint.
How close, Jennifer, did we get to Congress getting to a national privacy policy? Was it 21 or 23?
Yeah.
Was that there?
Yeah, and it was brought up in one chamber, but never made it out.
Yeah. So there have been efforts, but there hasn't been enough push, largely by the commercial sector, to do something about it.
And even in the state, rather than having one like privacy law for the state, like last session, something about AI and having to notify people when AI is being used. So it's very, and this happens both at the national level and in a lot of states. It's very
fragmented.
Specific. Yes, it's very specific either to a certain industry or a certain situation. A few years ago, there was a law that passed that addressed vendors taking our data, and so ownership of data, but it didn't really address anything else. So it's a little bit here and there, but there's no overall piece.
We can run for office. Do it. Privacy in every pot. All right. We really are at a fun time in technology too, and in the legal domain, thinking about the practice of law and the privacy implications of AI and Gen AI on the work that lawyers are doing, and how much do they need to do to protect their client confidential information. That's a major privacy concern, because that data is absolutely confidential and must be properly secured. Lawyers are not the most technologically sophisticated folks out there, so they're relying on vendors and other third parties. So, what kind of policies might they need? If you're engaged in working in the legal field to protect that data. There's so much to talk about. We're over the course of the semester, we're going to dig in some detail into the law side of it. So, do I have the rest of the lectures for pretty much, maybe except for a couple?
Yeah, you have a couple.
Yeah, we'll be
next few.
Yeah, we'll be looking at the assignments that are coming up and expectations. So we'll be talking in specifics about the privacy impact assessment and what that is, and building an incident response plan, what that is. And we'll also be talking about some of the legal aspects and regulatory aspects of the stuff. So we'll be taking deeper dives into those areas as we go through the rest of the course. Well, do we think we can stretch it out another 7 minutes? Or do we want to go ahead and adjourn? Do I hear a motion?
I just want to add that, I hope that getting out a little bit early tonight allows you maybe to have dinner with your family or take your dog for a WALK. I can't say that out loud. And, watch some TV or do something that makes you feel human tonight.
Yes, please stay human. One of the folks in my team works remotely, and on our daily stand-ups, one of his pets is usually sitting on a pillow or sitting in the kennel behind him, and we're kind of mercilessly in the things that we say to see if we can get the dog's attention. So.
Well, my dogs went to school today, so hopefully they're, for the most part, down for the count, but he can spell.
Yeah. Do they have any homework?
No, not today, but I do have a picture to show for next time. I meant to put it in the presentation today. Last week was the Saline County Fair and Rodeo, and so they had rodeo days at school.
Yeah. Did you see in the Arkansas Times the nice little article about the Department of Human Services and their failed effort to replace Chris?
I saw, no, I didn't see it in the Arkansas Times, but I saw it on State Scoop.
Yeah, it was essentially the same article.
I figured, but it came out in State Scoop, which means everybody around the country's seen it. I'm like, great.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Remember, take care of yourself, take care of those around you. That's what really matters.
That's right. Do something to make you feel human.
Mr. Your tips and tricks deck be added to the Blackboard?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll speak for her. Yes.
Yes, I'll do it right now tonight before I even close my laptop down.
And also last week, there were a couple of really good slides that had specific things about what we might expect to see in both the privacy notice and privacy policy. So pay attention. We've given you pretty much everything you need to know to do the work and do an awesome job on it. Well, thank you and good night, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
See you next week, Jennifer.
I'll be there.
I'll be here.
All right.
Thanks,
And I'm
y'all.
going to get this posted.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.